Mars wasn't always a barren world ruled by raging dust storms. On the contrary, several pieces of evidence suggest that the red planet was warm, had lakes of liquid water, and was possibly habitable for a short period in its history. This dramatic transition of Mars is generally attributed to the loss of its magnetic field. A planet's magnetic field is a fundamental ingredient that decides its course of events. It's an entity that can cause the difference between life and death. So the loss of the magnetic field was a turning point in the history of Mars. Studying the planet's past habitability has been one of the prime objectives of multiple missions to Mars, including the recently launched Perseverance rover. Perseverance has been exploring the Martian rocks since early 2021, and now it has found strong signals of organic matter on Mars. So how did Perseverance make this significant discovery? What does it tell us about the history of Mars? Finally, and most importantly, if life existed on Mars, what did it look like? Perseverance, nicknamed Percy, is a car-sized rover launched as part of NASA's Mars 2020 mission. The rover and its companion, Ingenuity, landed on Mars on February 18, 2021. Since then, it has been exploring the red planet in a bid to bring humanity closer to the unanswered questions. One of the most crucial tasks assigned to the rover was to explore the Jezero crater and look for evidence of former microbial life existing in such environments. The Jezero crater is Percy's landing site, believed to have been flooded with water in the past. Percy carried 43 sample tubes, of which 38 were tasked to collect different samples from various geological locations on Mars. In its first science campaign, the rover collected 8 samples. They included igneous rocks likely formed deep under the surface, due to some volcanic processes on the crater floor. After completing the first campaign, Perseverance arrived near Jezero crater's ancient river delta on April 13th to begin its second spree to collect the exclusive Martian samples. And in doing so, it collected 4 new samples, bringing the total count to 12. But what was so special about the new Mars samples? What extraordinary can they reveal about ancient Mars life? The answer to these questions lies in the history of the site. The river delta marks an ancient fan-shaped feature that possibly formed about 3.5 billion years ago at the convergence of a Martian river and a lake. It hosts some fine-grained sediments deposited at its base long ago. So this site is the mission's best bet for finding the preserved remnants of ancient microbial life, making the delta one of the best locations on Mars to look for signs of past microscopic life. By making use of a drill on the end of its robotic arm and a complex sample collection system, Percy found organic materials in the delta. Organics had been previously found on Mars by Perseverance and the Curiosity rover. However, the latest detection has been made in an area where sediment and salts were deposited into a lake. The conditions might have triggered the existence of life in the past. The samples collected by Percy are pretty diverse. For example, one collected sample is a sandstone that seems to carry grains and rock fragments created far from Jezero crater. In comparison, the other is a mudstone with intriguing organic compounds. The rover has also scraped off some of the surfaces of Wildcat Ridge, a rock about 1 meter wide, and it likely formed billions of years ago as mud and fine sand settled in an evaporating saltwater lake. When the sample collected from this rock was analyzed with one of Percy's instruments called Sherlock, it was found to contain a class of organic molecules that can be correlated with sulfate minerals. This is interesting because sulfate minerals found in sedimentary rock layers can reveal information about the watery environments in which they formed. Further, the correlation suggests that when the lake evaporated, sulfates and organics got deposited, preserved, and concentrated in this area, thereby strengthening the fact that Percy is exploring the right place. Organic molecules can act as an indirect indication of the presence of life. These molecules consist of a wide variety of compounds made primarily of carbon as a fundamental ingredient and are usually accompanied by hydrogen and oxygen atoms. They can also contain other elements such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Although a few of these compounds can be formed by an abiotic process, some are the chemical building blocks of life. So their presence is considered a potential biosignature, serving as possible evidence of past life. In its first 2 science campaigns, Perseverance has collected an amazing set of Martian samples to be analyzed. Each sample is stored individually in tubes, primarily made up of titanium, and weighs less than 57 grams each. The tubes have a white coating on the outside that will protect the samples from getting heated by the sun, which can potentially change their chemical composition. All the collected samples have been secured in the tubes, and now the next task is to bring them home for a detailed study. NASA and ESA are leading cooperation to plan out ways to get the first Martian samples back to Earth in a secure manner. Considering what has been decided so far, the plan is to land a sample return lander near or in Jezero crater. The lander will carry a small rocket on which the samples collected by Perseverance will be loaded. Further, 2 Ingenuity-like helicopters are also on the cards to provide extra support in retrieving samples from the surface of Mars. After the collection, the sample cache will be launched off the red planet. Then another spacecraft would be deployed, capturing it in Mars orbit, eventually bringing it back to Earth. The whole plan is complex and has to be carried out precisely to safely bring the samples from the red planet to the blue planet. As per the best estimates, the agencies hope to successfully execute their plans by early to mid-2030. Let's see what more the Perseverance rover discovers on Mars. This concludes the 27th episode of the Sunday Discovery series. So, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to our channel, and press the bell icon so that you don't miss any future episodes of the series.